Hi there, everyone. Jim here with Fantasy for the Ages, the father of the Father Son show, where Zach and I get together and talk about fantasy, science fiction, and other nerdy things we enjoy. We're bringing a book blast episode to you today, so just a short little bit reactions without ruining plot to a book we've both read. Moving out of the way, Joe Abercrombie, Before They Are Hanged. There, I got the whole thing in the picture.
I'm impressed. I didn't think you were going to pull it off.
If you enjoy what you see here today, be sure to like it. We really appreciate that. We hope you subscribe to our channel and give us comments, your reactions to what you hear today. So this is book 2 of the original First Law trilogy, and it's kind of where it all super takes off. Would that be accurate, Zach?
Yes, and yet I would describe this book very much as being the middle.
Yeah.
You don't understand what's going on if you don't have the context of the first book, but you also don't get full final payoffs. You get a feeling of like, oh yeah, this chapter is completed, but we know where we're going. And this chapter of our story, it gave context to a character. It allowed them growth to continue on this way. And we developed the plot further. And so it really goes, okay, this feels very intentionally the second of 3 books. It's good. It's better than the first, but it's still building onward.
Speaking of building, it definitely builds out the world more as we get 2 very different settings now. And one is a journey setting through different regions, and the other is Glocta out in a totally different place now and having to deal with a really crappy situation.
I mean,
I liked that whole setting out there and what
that was great.
Yeah,
that was really where Glocta got to shine, where we went from first book. If Glocta's your favorite character, maybe that's a red flag. Second book, it's still kind of, but like there are things to admire about this character. I do want to take a moment to say that this book highlighted for me something that a lot of authors overlook: having a really good name of the book. Because it doesn't always have to make sense to the story. It doesn't always have to be like, yeah, the final line of the story was, yeah, and we were the Before They Were Hanged gang. No, it's not that. But having something that gets like a very cool real-world historical context or story. This one comes from a poem that when you know then the poem and it does show it, gives more context to where it's we should forgive one's enemies, but not before they are hanged. And it just feels so good for what this story is.
This story introduces some things for the deeper part of the story. You mentioned that. You're really getting a grander scheme to everything that is happening. And once again, everything is not what it would appear. We still get some character development. We meet some new characters, some of whom are quite significant. I enjoy, over in the Glocta part of it, that head of the mercenaries who's always drunk. I forget the name right now because it's been too long since I've read it. Do you remember that one's name?
I don't remember their name, but I know that I need to keep an eye out for them.
There's something to that character, indeed. But the journey part of the story. Baez as a Gandalf character. Yes? No?
As a Gandalf character? Sure. As Gandalf? Not even close. And that's a good thing for this world and this story, but maybe not a good thing overall. We do get, through that journey arc, a lot of lore dumps that are a little questionable. We get that unreliable narrator situation.
Right.
But it is intriguing to get what pieces we can out of that. And while not only does this book expand the world geographically, moving to more continents and whatnot, but we also get a better scope for the scale of what's at stake in the grander story, the time in which this has all gone on for. We get history, what's led up to this moment, what does it mean moving forward, and a lot of that is through these little tidbits and stories that may or may not be fully true.
Yes. Who would the hero of the story be?
I don't think this series gets heroes. That being said, in this book, the most hero-like character is probably Logan Nine Fingers in this book. Okay. That being said, we haven't mentioned it throughout most of this, West deserves mentioning.
He views himself as the hero of the story.
Well, I don't think he really does.
Okay. All
There's a
right.
lot during this story that he views himself as necessary, but he also starts to hate himself more and more.
Ah, all right.
And it's kind of like valid, but it's him doing what's necessary.
Now, you mentioned Logan Nine Fingers, and we had lots of reasons in the first book to see him as a sympathetic character that we like, but we do get to see some other aspects of Nine Fingers
I mean,
here.
we saw a specific bloody aspect at the end of the last book, and we see that again in this book. What I like about him and see him more heroic in this book is that he's genuinely trying to be better, to be happy, to make other people happy. This world doesn't allow for that, but
Mm,
he's trying. And
okay.
he's about the only character in the entire series right now who seems like they're making a genuine effort to be better.
There might be some who would argue that is he really trying, or is he convincing himself that he's trying, but he's really not?
For a lot of it, I think he is. I think he really is. I think he fails,
Hmm.
but I think he tried.
Okay. Definitely a good addition to the first Law story. It's definitely better than the first book. It really moves things along, gives us so much more to get our teeth into, but we clearly needed another book.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it here now. Come back for our next Book Blast episode to finish out the First Law trilogy. But thanks for watching, everyone. We'll talk to you next time.